Okay, the recording's on.
Thank you. Welcome everyone to the governance meeting. It's October 28th, 2020. So we'll start with a call to order. Everyone get to order, please. So we were opening the meeting now. We're just talking about the next item is the acceptance of the agenda. I think I'd like to amend the agenda to reflect recent events at City Council. I think there's some urgent matters that the governance board is going to need to address. So I'd like to move for well, I guess what would be this would be a good practice. The procedure here is, should we put on the motion on the floor to accept the agenda and then call for amendments?
I don't know. I think you can call for amendments right away.
Okay. So yeah, I would like to call for the amendment to discuss the recent report from the city and what recommendations from that report reflects on work that the governance committee is going to have to complete. Cindy, what do you think about that?
Nope, sounds like a good idea.
Excellent. All right, well, that motion being passed, we will add that in as the next line item number 6. Sorry, so new 5, I guess, or news underneath the approval of the September 23rd minutes. So then we will discuss any declaration, or can we accept the agenda as amended then?
Oh, we need a second.
Looking like sticking to formalities in the two-person.
Yeah, you know what? I'm sorry. Just to
meeting.
clarify, it's just you and I and Angela, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
This is a recorded session, and for posterity's sake, we will stick to the decorum and rules of
Okay.
meetings.
Sorry, Paul is just being added right now.
Okay.
Morning, Paul.
Morning.
Hey.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Not too bad, thank you. We just started. You didn't miss anything. We put a motion on the floor, which was accepted, to amend the agenda so that the first substantive item will be to discuss the city report and recommendations made therein, which will impact on the governance committee and work the government committee have to do to satisfy the recommendations of the city. So other than that, you're up to speed.
Okay.
Do you have any conflicts for anything on the agenda for this meeting?
No.
Excellent. Cindy, any conflict?
I just had, you haven't done minutes yet then, eh? Sorry, acceptance of minutes?
Nope, that's next up.
Okay, all right.
You're right in time for that. Perfect.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay, so next item.
And no conflicts for me.
Thank you. Next item would be the approval of the September 23rd, 2020 minutes.
Okay. I did have one correction for that. Just that, excuse me, that my name was spelled wrong.
Oops, sorry, I'll fix that.
I motion not to fix the error. Angela doesn't make mistakes. Oh, I think you must be wrong in this case.
And also, I think the title is agenda, and it should be minutes. If I was looking at the right document.
Well, there's notes that we send out in the minutes, but I will double check.
Oh, I'm
that.
sorry. Yeah, you're right. Then it's the notes, I think, just have agenda on it instead of notes or minutes. My apologies.
Okay, but I will double check the minutes to make sure that it says minutes on the top.
Yeah, the minutes do say agenda, so that can.
Okay.
Okay, good catches, everybody. So with those amendments, can we move to accept the minutes from September 23rd?
Sure.
I'll move that.
Okay. I'll second that.
Thank you. Carried. All right, then moving into the substantive discussions for today that I think, like I said, should probably take precedence. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to read the report of the city or skim through and see some recommendations. I certainly haven't had a chance to really dive into the full 200 and whatever pages there were there, but enough to understand the recommendations that were being made, and certainly looking to some issues that we've done. Certainly, I would take some responsibility for that. When I first came on onto the BIA, I didn't fully appreciate or understand that we were a local board of council and the ramifications of that. So certainly learning as we go here, and yeah, the certain policies and procedures, constitutions, documents that we've ratified through the membership but haven't sent through the city. And a lot of that was on advice, from what I understand, of the OBIAA. I think we need to have some clarification and some better guidance and some amendment to some documents, certainly, to get things shaped up. So have you guys had a chance to read through the report or seen anything in there that what they're talking about with our governance documents?
I did. It was quite a long document, and yeah, I did see the piece where it talked about how with your ratified constitution that the city said that they hadn't seen it, or that it was supposed to come before them first and then be approved. I saw that there was some mention of some financial controls that they wanted to see adjusted for some processes, but yeah, I think it may stem from perhaps the city not having provided some resources and clarification for the BIA's board itself too. Yeah.
Cindy, any comments on that?
Yeah, I tried. I don't read legalese and policy all that well when it was very, I found it very wordy. I didn't think that the deficiencies we had were critical in nature, but they were kind of positioned somewhat ambiguously, I found. So I haven't sat down to tease apart each recommendation in its individual totality, but overall I thought that they were reasonable things we could address if we sat down to, focus and remediate what we were doing. But I agree, better guidance from the city and perhaps a little more supportive relationship, which is what we were working towards, would easily take care of it. So, I mean, I'm obviously with the upcoming survey or vote, it's kind of hard for me to wrap my head around diving in to kind of fix all these things and move forward full steam ahead. So I'm just a little hesitant, and I don't know exactly what we're supposed to do at this point in time. Whether the governance committee writes, a report or a plan and submits that to city council, if we, start addressing items straight away, or if we wait until after the vote, because if hypothetically we dive in and do all kinds of work, and then if we're disbanded, do we start from scratch? So I'm kind of in limbo right now as far as direction and what exactly we're supposed to be doing right now.
Yeah, I think that those are all valid points. I don't think that we would do anything more than map out and discuss the changes that need to take place and what those changes are going to look like, how that's going to take place. I don't think we dive into any of the substantive work until we understand whether we're still going to be an organization here by the end of the year or not.
So do we write a report to council in response as the governance committee?
No,
or
I would
do
say
we lobby somehow?
I don't think so. I don't see the value in that at this point in time. The motion now is before the floor. My understanding of what's going to happen next is the members, the membership is going to respond to a survey. We have absolutely no control over the contents of that survey, how the survey is worded, what questions they ask. I mean, I jokingly said to somebody the other day, I don't think this is going to happen, but I think they're going to be reasonably fair with it. They've got those internal controls. They can't just whip out surveys that are biased or anything, I would expect. But you know, I was joking the other day. You know, you can get whatever you want from a survey. A question could be, you know, is the financial mismanagement of the BIA acceptable to you? Yes or no? The survey question, right? So I would expect that the questions will be crafted by those who have experience in doing that, and if it's anything like surveys or experiments or those types of things done in different institutional organizations, they'll have to pass through an ethics committee as well, which I think we'll go through that. But again, I am not well versed in city council politics, rules, procedures, guidelines. To be honest, nor do I wish to be. It's not my cup of tea. But yeah, I agree with the long and short of that is I agree. I don't think that we do anything more than make a plan at this point for how we're going to respond. The report made it pretty clear that they will be engaging in training in the near future. So I believe that they will obviously hold off on that as well, if, depending on the results of the motion on the floor. And from there, once we get the motion, I think we present a plan, which would be in, I guess, in January or so, to the city clerk and different people that are going to provide training to us, and work with them to see exactly what needs to be done. I would just like really some real simplification. I think what we did before was we just have way too many documents, way too many governance documents. I think we're a simple board. I don't think we need to be looking at 6 or 7 different documents that are governing how we operate as a small board. I'm more of a simpleton in that regard. Like, I would just like there to be maybe 2 or 3 different documents that are going to control and make it very clear what the processes are for operation, what the rules and conduct is. The city might have something different to say about that, because I think on the one hand, they're saying we have too many documents, but on the other hand, they're saying we're deficient in a lot of areas and we need to add more rules. So hard to make a firm decision on what the plan is going to be without having that guidance from the city to let us know what they expect of us as a local board of council.
And if you can refresh my memory, because we didn't have a governance committee previous to the new ED, so were a lot of these policies implemented under her watch, or did we have policies that carried over that we just kind of weren't overly aware of from before?
Yeah, I think a little bit of both. When I was forced into being the chair of the governance committee, which was newly created, and when I'm reading back through some of these documents and some of the concerns of city council, they don't directly come out and say this, but it would be because I think they want us to have a governance committee, but I don't think we're allowed to have a governance committee without city approval. So I'm not even sure that this committee is allowed under city rules or policies and procedures. And again, that information is not really that easy to find. However, communication with the city clerk and city clerk staff is easy. They respond quickly. They seem very knowledgeable. They're friendly. So it'd be my personal thing. I think that's my responsibility as this chair of this committee, is to, you know, make sure that that is okay. I have sent out correspondence to her in my capacity as chair of governance, so the city is aware that we have a governance committee and that we're operating under a governance committee. And I haven't seen anything in either the report or anything else to say that that is a bad thing or it's not permitted. But the terms of reference, I believe, and maybe even our bylaw sets out the specific committees that we're allowed to have. And this doesn't allow for that, then we're not properly created by our own documents. Again, I'm going to have to get some guidance on this and kind of work through before we make any big rash decisions or changes. We need to, these are the kinds of questions we need to ask. And if we need to create a new committee, are we allowed to do that? How do we do that? What happens? Like, how much room does our board have to operate without having to go get permission from the city for everything we need to do? I think that's a little bit of a line that I'm not certain of where the line in the sand is for that and those decisions that we make.
So can I provide some background here?
You absolutely can, Angela. You've got the wealth of knowledge in this room.
The terms of reference, when they were created with the city, because it was actually city legal and clerks that we worked with and created the bylaws, the terms of reference, the hiring policy and the procurement policy. At that time, those were the committees that we had that are listed in there. They did not say that we could not create others. And in fact, it was actually from the clerk's office that we not call them committees, that we call them working groups. And that way we kept notes, but we didn't have to take formal committee minutes. And they recommended that because our committees were continually evolving, where people were leaving and coming and going and stuff. So that was actually a recommendation from clerks at that point. When our past ED came on, she basically said that's a stupid way of doing everything and we're changing them all to committees. Excuse me. Whether the council's upset about that, I have no idea. I don't think that it was ever intended that, you know, the working groups that were named in that document were the only ones and that it was static. I think it was, at this point, this is what we have. And as we need other committees for different things, we could create those committees, or working groups as they were calling them at that point.
It would make sense to me that, you know, the structure would align where the constitution or the bylaw that defines the organization is a piece that has to go through the city for any changes and approvals, but that would still allow for working groups or committees, whatever it wants to be called, to review and modify over time policies and procedures processes. And if there are changes for the bylaw or the constitution, it would go before the members, and upon a member's vote, then, you know, being approved by members, then go back to the city to say that members would like to make this change, and the city then further supporting that. That to me would make a lot of sense for how the flow would work to allow for committees like this, because you can't just ignore policies and procedure stuff for long periods of time and only leave it up to the city to get around to reviewing those kinds of things. An organization constantly needs to review those things. Those things change all the time. As their own report notes, when they looked at some of the content, like the bylaw 74 or something or other, they realized themselves, oh, we at the city, we haven't even looked at this in decades. We need to modify this because it's no longer in compliance with other laws in that's out there. So I would think the city would want there to be these committees or working groups to make these regular reviews of the content of what we have, and to bring it forward if there's something that impacts a bylaw, like the bylaw level or the constitution level. But again, I mean, that's more info that we need from the city, like for how they see this functioning and flowing for the way these things work. My impression from the report was that their first step is they're going to figure out how they're going to do the survey. They're not even going to do the survey yet. They have to come back to council with how they intend to do a survey. And then they'll take another step. So this, to me, sounds like it's going to be a while before they even figure out how they're going to do what they're going to do.
Yeah, and certainly a lot of different issues in there. And I think a little bit of finger pointing that, you know, as a member of this organization, I would take some umbrage to, like the direction that we maintain a role of the membership. Well, we've been asking them for a role of our membership for quite some time and being told we can't have it. And we can't release it. So maybe I'm wrong in that I wasn't directly involved, but that was my interpretation of what was happening, where they weren't cooperating with us in getting that. And again, for amending the bylaw, we as a board decided that we wanted to put forth and inquire how we can amend the bylaw so that we can update it, allow for non-voting membership on the directors, for different stakeholders to come in and have a say and provide value, and met with a lot of resistance for that. Just don't do that. That would be very difficult. You know, you shouldn't be doing that. So yeah, none of those conversations or anything that, you know, that we've done has been reflected. But at the same time, I think the report is fairly worded. There is no scathing language in that report to say, you know, anything we've done is done in bad faith or with malice or is egregious or that belows the total, you know, standard. There's a way that could have been written to make things look a lot worse than it was. So I don't think it was unfair what they said. All the points are valid, and I think maps out a way to move forward, which is good. So, yeah. So one of the things that we did that will need to be changed is we had the membership ratify a new constitution. At the time, again, my notes reflect that we had no constitution in place. That was constantly being brought forward. Now, terms of reference are in fact a constitution, just by another name, as far as I would understand. Angela, would you agree with that?
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, I would.
It wasn't there this discussion that, oh, a constitution was brought forward, but the membership never voted for it, so we don't actually have one.
So,
Recall when you're doing all that? Like, what's the clarification on that?
so before I came on board, they were, when I say they, the BIA was drafting a constitution. And when I came on board, not sure what happened to the computer, but it was basically a blank slate. There was no membership, no documents, nothing. So all that work had gone missing. And then the city came in and said, you know, we're disbanding the board, and we're going to come back with new bylaws and stuff. And that's what they did. And then they sat down with us and said, you guys have a bylaw and a terms of reference. So instead of calling it a constitution, they called it a terms of reference. So, and that was accepted in 2013.
Gotcha.
So that's what we've been working from since 2013, until the executive director came in and said, this isn't good enough. This doesn't even act as this. We need a constitution.
Okay. So technically the membership would have never voted in those terms of reference or ratified those as a membership. It's just something that was kind of imposed on us by the city.
To be honest, I don't recall. We may have actually taken it to the membership after the city and us had worked through it.
Okay. But the reason I ask is not to challenge the validity of those terms of reference. It's, does that mean that we can, because I think, again, we'll work with the city to get guidance on this, but we can't have two constitutions.
No, exactly.
So, I think we need to look at the one that we have now, the terms of reference, where are the gaps where we feel like we need to add into the old terms of reference, and then have the city go ahead and impose the new terms on us, or yeah, I'm not sure what the city power is as far as what they decide we can and can't do, or how they can, if they can just come in and strike a mallet and then make changes without ratification of the membership. Something I need to improve on in my knowledge base, and this kind of.
So I know in the past they actually worked with us, like they sat down and we went line by line. And a lot of it was to make sure at that point that we were in compliance with municipal affairs and housing. Right? And that's when I read the report, that's what I was reading too. There's things right now that we're no longer in compliance with because of changes that have occurred, and we need to update our bylaws, constitution, like all of our documents to make sure that we are again in compliance because of the changes from the government.
Okay. So when we say, that's a good segue, when we say bylaws, are we talking about internal bylaws that we're passing or the city bylaws?
So I think it's both. So we do have internal bylaws as well, that at the same time the terms of reference were created, that was created. And that was actually in place. The BI had a bylaws, and then the city separated that bylaw document into bylaws and terms of reference.
Okay. So we've got, and so one of our internal bylaws then would be, for example, which we have amended recently, the ability to work online or ability to hold meetings with an emergency vote. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So our tree of authority of documents would be our terms of reference first.
Yeah.
And then below that would be our bylaws.
Yeah.
And then do you think the city requires us, or that there's value in us having a separate set of policies and procedures? Open question to the floor.
I think there's value in it for internal, right? Like if you have staff changeover, I think those are important for the staff to know about and how they should proceed, right?
I agree with that. Anybody else have any comments on that?
No.
I just quickly went back through my email. I haven't found it. I'll try another search later, but because I have email going back many, many years, some of it to 2010, 11, 12 and stuff. I haven't found anything where there was a call for members meeting to ratify BIA stuff back in 2013, as you were talking about there, Angela. I'll take another look because typically I've kept any of those kinds of meeting invites and things like that over the years and stuffed them aside somewhere, but so far nothing.
Yeah, it could just be that the city said, here's what it is. And it could be that, you know, because we had the bylaws and they just basically separated the two, that
Yeah.
they told us that we didn't need to have it ratified by the membership, because they were trying to make it a little clearer, other than just calling it one document of just the bylaws, that it's, you know, this is how you would separate it out.
So those are the 3 tiers of documents, and that's, I think, what we need to
The
focus
city can
on.
clarify that for us, yeah.
First is the terms of reference. What changes need to be made to that? And I guess we work with city staff for that, but I think we also need to not, because city staff is just going to be worried for their part about making sure it's in compliance with the Municipal Act. I think for our part, we need to make sure that it does what it needs to do for our internal operation and concerns and our membership. So that might go above and beyond just meeting bare minimum requirements. So I think that's something I'd want to look at and have ready to go before we engage in staff training. Cindy, did you have something to add there? I just saw your thing go green.
Yeah, no, sorry. I went to unmute myself and I accidentally hung up. So I just found back in.
Okay.
And no, I'm good. I have everything to add. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think we also lean on the OBIAA to assist us through this process. Again, they're the ones that gave us the working documents for the Constitution that we voted in, and what I understand at least is gave direction to our ED and guidance on how to make that work and how to put that in place. So obviously that didn't work in our jurisdiction, but they might be able to have some good insight and recommendations there. Same with the policies and procedures. Is, again, Angela, I'll lean on you for that. Is that correct? Is that kind of, a lot of that stuff came from Kay Matthews?
I have no idea. I wasn't involved in that at all.
Okay. I'm quite certain that it did. Yeah, and I think for governance, those are the main things that they had issue with. So procedure bylaw, they want us to adopt a procedure bylaw. So our policies and procedures versus procedure bylaw, I think they'd be 2 different things. The policies and procedures will need clarification, but I think that's an internal document that the city doesn't need to work with us on. Because it's really just controlling staff engagement and volunteer policy and, you know, all of those things. I think every time we review one of these new policies, like a volunteer policy or anything, that should be part of our policies and procedures. And that's a document that I think just is a living document and evolves and adapts and is more fluid, and we have an ability to change that as we need to without ratification of membership or without approval of the city. It's just it's an internal workings document. So I don't see why we would need that to be ratified other than just for its creation, which has already been done. So we will talk to the city on that though. And yeah, I think having our terms of reference and having all of our current bylaws and having the city bylaw in one booklet that we can each refer to or have a digital booklet, I think would be helpful. That's just kind of tabbed out. You know, constating bylaw, that's the top of the shop, but that's what creates us and we stick to that first. terms of reference, second most important document, procedure bylaw, following bylaws. Those are important to refer to, and I guess we'll also need to learn from the city on proper way of conducting meetings and holding ourselves in those meetings and doing everything like city council with half the pay. But anyways, that would be my end on the discussion of the report. If anyone else has anything to add there or questions or.
No, I really appreciate your summary and whatnot, and I do feel we need to lean on this city. So when it comes down to fine-tuning stuff, I hope our partnership is a lot stronger and they can provide more support and guidance in letting us know exactly how we can comply to their standards. So I look forward to working with them and having their support.
Me too. I'm sorry, I think I've got someone at the front desk and I'm sure I'm the only one here right now. Just give me 1 second.
Sure.
Yeah, I was here about 20 to 8 and it was already gone. Yeah.
All right, was my admin cleaning the front desk and accidentally hit the bell. A lot more disinfectant these days. So, okay, so let's move on then. I would probably say that I don't want to dive too deep or do too much more work at this point in time until we know what's happening. But I think we can go through the meeting as far as it goes. ED evaluation, staff holiday, and overtime request would be the next one I guess would be acceptance of new committee members, if any. Any new committee members? Can we get a flood of applications, Angela, after that meeting?
I got an application late last night, and I know of someone else who's going to be putting in an application. So right now, no, because I don't think it's fair to dump this one on you guys if you haven't had a chance to review it. So for the next meeting, we'll have at least one, if not two, to review.
It's all for the flashy committees, though. I bet you it's all marketing and community development.
Actually, I think one's events.
No, events. That's right. Yeah, that's everyone wants events marketing. You can tell my jealousy as the lesser popular committee member. So moving on then. Yeah, the ED evaluation, staff holiday, and overtime requests. I think I would just put that over indefinitely until the training from the city clerks occurs. I don't know what you guys think about that.
I actually had a question for you on that one. So everything that you currently do for like those kinds of requests is all through this paper thing back and forth and scanning and signing and scanning back, right?
No.
You guys don't have like an online tool that allows you to do that?
So right now, because we're such a small staff, it's, I will say, okay, I'm not coming in on Friday. Like there's nothing formal. So this is trying to formalize it.
Yeah.
And no, we don't have an online sort of thing. Again, because it's so small. It's easier just to, have this on your desk and fill it out. And in like my case, if Ivano comes in, then he can just sign it when he stops in, right?
And I know there's sort of obviously with things up in the air from the city side, but it might be worth looking at and even putting it in front of the city because they may like it for additional formalization of things. There's different kinds of online tools. We use one because we used to do a lot of this by paper at GHS. There's a tool we use called Bamboo HR. And it's, my understanding is that it's not, I don't know what the actual cost is, but my understanding is that it's not very expensive at all to use. And what it does is it allows you to formalize this stuff, but put it all online so you can do it from your phone or from your desktop or laptop. So there's a little app on my phone that I can load up, and if I want to make a vacation request, I can do it right there, and then my supervisor gets a little notification saying, hey, so-and-so would like to take this day off at this day and time, blah, blah, blah. And they can just tap to approve it. We don't have to do paperwork back and forth or like emails back and forth. And it tracks all that vacation time earned as well. So say, for example, I want to book something 3 months from now. When I go to book it, it'll tell me what hours I've actually earned by that point in time as well. So it does all the math for you. It does all that sort of background stuff for you and keeps it nice and simple. While having this fully available digital record of stuff. It also gets used for all of our other HR stuff in terms of like when we're onboarding people. And I sent you that text last night, Angela.
Yes.
Sorry, because I forgot I had to do that, but I sent you that onboarding checklist. That was a format we used to use when it was all on paper. It's now also all in Bamboo. We have, when a new employee is about to start, there's this checklist that we get in Bamboo. We checkbox to say, okay, did this, created their user account, or took them through a review of the agency's stuff, took them through introducing the staff, all those different things. And again, it keeps it nice and simple instead of like reams and reams of paperwork. You have to scan, copy, rescan, sign, and all that other stuff, right? So it's a pretty great little tool. We've been pretty happy with it. Now, mind you, we're a staff of like 60, 70 people plus volunteers and whatnot. So we needed something to reduce massive amounts of paperwork. But even for a small thing like this, I could see it being pretty helpful and useful as a tool, something to consider.
Yeah, my concern would be the cost, right? We're already being slammed that administration is too high. That would just add another cost, where for us, it's easy enough to, because there is, myself and a contract person to be able to do it so quickly in-house, right? With, one piece of paper can be, because I'm looking at the overtime, like that's easy enough to put 4 different days on, right? I see the value in what you're saying, but I'm just worried about the costs and us already being slammed for the bottom line for the administration being too high.
Paul, I might call up HR Bamboo and let them know they've got a new spokesman. An excellent summary, a glowing review. It makes me want to implement it here.
Yeah,
Like,
it is pretty good. I'm happy to show you some point out if you want a little bit about what it looks like for me. So, because I have a login that I do as a manager at GHS for managing my staff. Now I don't have a whole lot. I've got one staff right now under my sort of Department of Tech stuff, but I could show you examples of what it looks like for being able to manage that. Because again, like then when my staff are looking for time off or sick time, that kind of stuff too. Again, it's all sort of right there in a simple format. So I can do a request in seconds, and I just wait for them to reply back to me in terms of my supervisor. So,
yeah, that would be really helpful. On a personal note, I do payroll and all that stuff and vacation tracking and everything. And even though I've only got a few staff, it can get overwhelming quickly. So having an online tool to help manage all of that, like everyone wins.
well, I'll check out the costs for this, just to see, because they might have, if it's minimal staff, there's very little cost. So I'll check that out and report back.
I think for us, it's like $5 a person, like on a per staff basis. I think it works out to about $5 per month per person on our cost on that. Now, again, we have more users. So on an individual, like on a smaller scale, it might be some monthly fee that's like 50 or 60 bucks a month or something, plus a per user fee or something on top. I don't know. But anyway, so again, it's called Bamboo HR. We've been using it for a few years at GHS now, and like I said, it cleaned up that whole thing of like sending an email and back and forth and whatnot, which is what we used to do. Because I agree, like you want to have a process that formalizes it and sort of gives you some clear tracking of all those different onboarding process over time. Even evaluations can be stored in there. Other documents, your policy and procedure document can be stored in there. We do that kind of stuff. I know it's only like 2 of you there, but a useful tool for being able to pop online to grab stuff. So, and you're hiring, like you can even do posting, like job postings through it and stuff like that, and define who gets notifications for certain postings and stuff. So
So that sounds good. Just, we've got everyone in agreement that we'll put over the item 7 until we get further discussion with the city.
one other note, I just noticed too, as I quickly peeked again back at our agenda, I don't know if you, because I missed the first couple minutes, sorry, but it says the 26th of October for our meeting. So the agenda should update to say the 28th.
Good catch.
If the city's going to be on all those other things about, well, when did you meet and whatnot, just tweak the agenda title.
All right, so volunteer policy. Angela has gone through that policy and cleaned it up substantially. Again, though, I think we park that for now in case we need to adapt it or change and where it's going to appear, or what it's going to look like, or whether we need to adopt the city's volunteer policy, or I think we just kind of put a pin in that for now as well. And moving on then, any new business? Open discussion, any last comments? Angela, anything you'd like to bring up before we part here?
No, I think we've covered most of it. I think a lot, we're just waiting right now, right?
We are in limbo, yes. Again, I don't know that we'll have a meeting in November if we don't have any updates back. I'm not sure what there would be to really.
We might, if we get committee members, just to even review them, just in case, you know, things still move forward. It'd be nice to be able to at least let them know that they're in the process, right?
Yep.
We could refer them to the actual committees.
We can do that. Yeah, we will. Let me know when you get the applications in. I am wondering if we can do a informal meeting, if that's the only agenda item.
Okay.
We'll get slapped on the wrist for it later, I'm sure. But I think if we're just going to look at committee member meetings, and having an informal phone-in meeting maybe for 15 minutes or something like that to just discuss that quickly would be something we can do. Like you said, it's not fair to committee members if they apply to just be left in limbo for 3 months. So I agree there should be something done with that. But on the other hand, we're kind of in limbo for the next few months. So.
Yeah, and you know, and that can be relayed to them as well when I correspond with them.
Okay, that might be the best cases. You know, we're going to process the system, look forward, and we'll do all of that. But we're not moving forward with anything until we know what's going to be the future of our organization. So if you just give them a standard review of that, then we can address it quickly once we figure out what's going on with the organization.
Yeah.
All right. Well, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Thank you.
Yep,
Cindy, will you second the motion?
I will.
Excellent. Carried. This concludes our governance agenda, our governance meeting for October 28th, 2020. Thanks everyone for coming and the continued support. And let's keep our fingers crossed that the membership gives us positive results in the survey and we can carry forward and carry on and do the things we need to do.